Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Hello Cannot podcast. My name is Kevin. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you're having a good day yourself. I hope everyone is enjoying their time. It's been a long Hari Raya for all of us, and also it's been a good 4 days break for myself from work as well from podcasting. And I would like to use this opportunity to wish everyone Selamat Hari Raya, Happy Eid Mubarak, and I hope you guys are staying safe at home. Now, before we jump into the news for today, I just want to make sure that everyone is also still staying safe at home. They're having socially distancing themselves from the people around them, and please do try to avoid going to crowded spaces as much as possible. I know that sometimes we do need to get some urgent stuff, but please try to select time, odd hours, where no one is really present, so that will keep everyone safe. The numbers in Malaysia is still climbing up. We have the total high of 44 deaths as of yesterday, and this is just an astronomical number. In comparison to what we have dealt for the past year. So okay, yeah, guys, stay safe. Don't go anywhere. And okay, so let's get into today's topic. I'll be presenting on two things. I would like to talk a bit about what has been happening, for Bitcoin, and what is going to happen in the coming future. And I would also just like to share a bit of information on the Israel versus Palestine issue that has been happening for the past few years, in fact. And I know that a lot of us may not be up to date with what's happening there, what was the background, what is the history that has led to today, Israel and Palestine constantly bombing each other, constantly at war. So I hope I can shed some light there and bring you up to speed with the situation, and maybe you can decide for yourself, what you should be looking into for this situation. Okay, now let's go back to Bitcoin. So I did do an episode on Bitcoin. That's the 21st episode. If you guys have not listened to it, please feel free to do about it. I did have a very critical analysis on what Bitcoin is about. How do you get around with Bitcoin? What is its main purpose and what you can use it for? Okay, so I did do a very generic dive in that information in what I mentioned earlier of the various aspects. But today I want to go dive a bit deeper because since February's announcement of the Bitcoin movement by Tesla, there has been a huge dip as of late, and this is because all thanks to Elon Musk. So in February of 2021 this year, basically Tesla made an announcement that they'll be accepting Bitcoin as payment for their cars, right? And because of this announcement from Tesla, from Elon Musk, this caused a very steep increase from at the point of time, right? Bitcoin was worth 30,000 US dollars for one, and at that point of time, the highest peak was $60,000. So you're talking about easily doubling the amount of what it was for Bitcoin. Okay, and during this time, after this announcement, every single person who has bought a Bitcoin was rejoicing, would be like, "Hey, I've at least from 30,000, I've already doubled my income, right, to 60,000." But what happens is people who jumped on this bandwagon as it was going up, right? So you do not know how high it will climb. So you can only use the opportunity to say, I'm going to buy, invest now, and hopefully, with this Bitcoin, it's just going to forever just keep increasing. So people did buy it at a later stage, when it was still climbing up. So they would have bought it at, let's say, 45,000 US dollars, 50, 55, all the way up to 60,000 US dollars, right? And it's also worth noting that right before Tesla made this announcement, Tesla themselves have actually bought 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin before the announcement. So they've already spent their amount as well before making this announcement. And I'm pretty sure that they knew by making this announcement, it will definitely skyrocket the price of Bitcoin. They definitely knew what they were doing and that this will move the market for Bitcoin. So now that it's skyrocketed to 60,000 US dollars, right? That's when, as of May 2021, that's when they made the second announcement. So Tesla announced that Bitcoin is no longer accepted as a payment, which caused a very huge dip of at least 17%, right? From $60,000 all the way to 45,000 US dollars for one Bitcoin. And you want to hear what's the real reason behind this? It's because Bitcoin mining, according to Tesla, is harmful to the environment and it's not considered green. And I'm going to mention, quote unquote, what was mentioned by Elon Musk on Twitter. We are concerned about rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. Now, according to Elon Musk, basically what they're saying is when you're trying to mine for Bitcoin, you need substantial power, you need substantial resources to do it, right? And to get those kind of resources, you will need to burn coal, you need to burn fuel, right? And that's not considered green enough for Elon Musk, even though he says factories, he plays around with rocket fuels and stuff like that. But this green thing does not apply to his company, it does not apply to Tesla, it only applies to the rest of the world. So this is a very selfish mentality, and I'm not sure why everyone looks up to Elon Musk so much. Now, what makes it worse is the sense of hypocrisy here. So despite Elon Musk claiming that Bitcoin is not being green enough, right? Let's just put that aside. Let's also put aside that the fact that his company, Tesla, produces and wastes a lot more fuel and coal during for consumption, right? During his testings and whatever production facilities production. Let's talk about his next tweet. Okay, so his next tweet was basically, quote unquote, working with Doge Coin developers to improve system transaction efficiency. And he ends it by saying, sounds promising. Now, before we go into details, I just want to share a bit here in terms of how I actually prefer to pronounce the coin, the cryptocurrency with the Shiba picture on it. So I know it's the spelling is basically DOGE coin, right? Which is what people call as Doge Coin. But what does Doge stand for? Is there any specific meaning to Doge? It doesn't make sense, right? So I prefer to call it as doggy coin because it's a dog. There's a dog there, it's a doggy, and it's a coin. So I'm going to start calling it doggy coin from now on. Screw you, Dogecoin announcers. You guys are wrong. Just kidding. Okay, so doggy coin basically skyrocketed. The price went all the way up to 60 cents from, what was it at the point of time, 5 cents, right? So with this sudden scale jump in the value of the doggy coin, you can basically see how Elon Musk is playing the cryptocurrencies just like how you would play the share market, right? How you would play funds, investment funds. And I'm pretty sure that before Elon Musk made this tweet, he has probably bought some doggy coins himself, at least Tesla has. And now this is what we call as market manipulation. Okay, someone of a sufficient, let's say, status will make an announcement on something that would make to change the general direction of the company or something that is related with, and this basically drives up the value of something, or it could even drive down the value of this other company. And that's what he's precisely doing with Bitcoin and Doggy Coin. He's basically buying the coins, buying this cryptocurrency. He's trying to get everyone hyped up about it to buy, to raise its value. And most likely, I believe he has already sold them before he made the announcement that Bitcoin, for instance, right, Bitcoin is no longer accepted as a currency for car purchase. Okay, so let's talk about one main thing here. So you say that Bitcoin, or at least Elon Musk said that Bitcoin is not green. Let's talk about circulation supply. Okay, circulation supply basically means how many of these coins are available in the world right now. Okay, so it's like let's talk about cash, right? So if you have a Malaysian ringgit or US dollars, the bank cannot always print an infinite amount. There's no unlimited currency. There's always a fixed amount of cash that is rolling out there. There cannot be more than that. So let's say if there's 40 million cash US dollars that's rotating within the market, you cannot have 40 million and one, right? You cannot exceed that number. And that is the exact same issue for Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrencies for that instance, because the minute you have more than what is being released, it doesn't make sense. How does it get accounted for? And it drives down the value of the coins because it can be easily retrieved or mined from anywhere else. So now let's talk about the circulation supply for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has 19 million supply out there, 19 million Bitcoins out there that is spread across the entire world. Whoever has bought it would have one Bitcoin or more. Okay, 19 million. Keep that figure in mind. Now let's talk about Doge Coin. Doge Coin, as of today, has 130 billion supplies, which is easily a 1000% increase, or at least 1000% more than what Bitcoin has. Now, assuming that for Bitcoin, for the activity of mining a Bitcoin is the same as mining a Doge Coin, right? Doge Coin has 1,000 times more resources to mine the 130 billion Doge Coins that they have versus what has been done for Bitcoin. And this is the level of hypocrisy that is something that you would expect from someone like Elon Musk, because everything is about profit, everything is about gain, everything is about market manipulation. It works only when he has something to gain, something to benefit from. And I mean, assuming that's what everyone wants these days, but this sort of market manipulation is wrong. And when you're trying to add salt to the wound, right? Whenever someone like Elon Musk, someone of his status, were to make such an announcement, there is usually no repercussion to such actions. Public figures are not handled on the same standards as us other normal civilians, right? If other civilians were to talk to their friends, and to really try to, as a team, as a group, or as a cult, try to rack up a price of one company, they would have been sent to jail, they would have been fined. But if a public figure does it, if someone of sufficient status does it, it's because he's famous enough, he's rich enough. Even with all of the evidence in front of your face, no one's going to take any actions, there's no repercussions, they will go off free, right? So this is just stupid in my opinion, and governments would have been filthy rich if they actually clamped down on this kind of situations, but nobody seems to do anything about it. Hint, hint, government, do something. This is very valuable. Okay, now let's talk about the last bit here of why Bitcoin is just ridiculous and it's stupid to be used as a currency. Okay, not as an investment is fine, because if you're willing, if you're ready to invest and to gain or to lose some money that you can let go of, then of course, please go ahead and invest, but not all your life savings, right? Now let's talk about the usage of Bitcoin or just cryptocurrency in general. You have a digital currency that you can use to exchange for goods, for services, maybe in the long term, in the future, right? And well, based on Tesla's recent announcements before, right, like in February, you could probably purchase a Tesla in that sense. But one of the main problems that this kind of cryptocurrency will not succeed is because of the volatility in terms of its pricing. Okay, so a lot of people would ask, how is it different from USD or Malaysian ringgit, right? US dollars. The normal international, or actually national currency that every country has, also goes up and down. But the one thing here that you should take note of is that it doesn't fluctuate too much, right? Let's say if for let's say a currency conversion between US dollars to Malaysian ringgit, it usually hovers between, let's say on a very bad decade or bad year, it would be like $1 to 3.5 Malaysian ringgit, or at its peak it could be $1 to 4.5 Malaysian ringgit, right? It depends. There's a fluctuation of between 3.5 to 4.5, give or take, right? It may not even go as low as 3.5, but let's just use that as an example. Now, when you're talking about Bitcoin, it can be 60,000 US dollars today, but in a week, it can be 45,000. We're not talking about like a $1 difference. We're talking about $15,000, and that's just a real life example. It can be much worse, right? So it is utterly ridiculous that Bitcoin or any kind of other cryptocurrencies will be accepted as a form of payment moving forward. The fluctuation is just too much for any merchant to handle, because once they have a handful of cryptocurrencies, let's say Bitcoin in general, I could be a billionaire today, but tomorrow I will be a millionaire. And that is a risk that I don't think a lot of merchants are willing to take. So keep that in mind. And that's pretty much it on the Bitcoin side of news. So before I head on to our next topic, let's hear a word from our sponsor. And there is no sponsor, just kidding guys. We're still waiting for sponsors. Let's see what happens in the future. Okay, now let's talk about the Israel versus Palestine issue. So I'm not sure how many of you guys are aware, but this has been going on for decades. And How many of you do know the real reason why they're at war against each other? So to start off with, you have the holy city called Jerusalem, which is basically indirectly the birthplace of Jesus. Okay, but it's also a place where a lot of holy activities have happened in the past. Okay, so to give an example, not only was Jesus born in Jerusalem, you also have Nabi Muhammad, which is the last Islamic prophet to have been to this Jerusalem place, to receive the last communication with God, and yeah, and that's why it's such a sacred place to both the Muslims, the Islamics, as well as Christians, right? And also Judaism, the Jews. Now, here is where you have the holy trinity of the biggest religions on the planet: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? This is the center or the beginning of all of these religions. But to bring it back one step back, right? To take it one step back, all of these three religions actually stem from the one same original religion, which is the Abrahamic religion. So before all of these three religions became so popular, there was the Abraham religion where there was a lot of killings, there was a lot of rape, there was a lot of bloodshed, right? And that was the major religion that dictated the three main religions that you see today, and how each of them, they actually started from very different points, but they do share similar traits along the way because of this Abrahamic religion that they all cheated off from, right? If you guys want to hear more, you can just read the Old Testament from the Bible or something like that, but it's just crazy, okay? So now you have people who are fighting three different religions who stem from the same original religion, fighting for the same piece of land, right? Imagine having siblings fighting for inheritance as soon as your dad or your parents are dead, right? This is the exact same scenario. Israel, which is in this sense, majority of the people in Israel are basically Jews, right? So they could be Judaism, following Judaism, or they could be following Christianity. And then you have Palestine, who are people that are majority Islamic in this sense. A long time ago, the Palestine, or not even Palestine, back then it was called the Ottoman Empire. And Ottoman Empire was a heavily majority Muslim Islamic nation, right? They took over this land and they claim it as their own. But throughout the years, after a few wars, they actually lost the war, and that's where Israel, Jews came in and settled in and took over the entire piece of land. Now, this basically happens to almost every single other country during wars, right? Like people will invade, and some countries will invade another country and they'll take over as their piece of land. I'm not sure why, because of this is a holy land, everyone wants to claim a piece of their own. So I think that's just utterly ridiculous, but let's play along with the story and let's find out more. So the Jews basically took over this entire land, right, which is the Ottoman Empire. They established Israel, and then they kicked out the Muslims, the Islamics, right? They kicked them out. Basically, there was a lot of racism that happened there, and they were not treated friendly during this time. Now, over the years, basically, when UN came in, they saw how the Palestinians, or basically the Muslims, Islamics, were treated, and they decided to intervene and say, hey, let's have a separate areas, separate districts, separate regions to have both mutually Israel and Palestine to live together, right? Let's have two states within the same area, and let's just try to cooperate and live in a community. But unfortunately, the Palestinians were the ones who were able to take over or surround basically Jerusalem, which is the Holy Land, which is something that until this day, the Israel people cannot give up. Everyone's basically fighting for the Holy Land, for the rights of their religion, right? And here is where it gets very extreme. In the words of the Bible, love thy neighbor, send them some rockets, send them some bombs, right? Bomb everyone, bomb a few things here and there, in the name of religion, you shall love thy neighbor. And in the Quran, you are always talking about being peaceful neighbors, being peaceful people. We should also send the Israel some bombs back. You should always murder some of their people. It's fair. It's in the name of religion. let's be peaceful, murdering bastards. So that's what happens. Everyone, all the extremists at least, they are trying to attack the other person on the name of religion, and this is why the war never ends. People from Israel, I'm sure, actually not really, I'm sure, I've seen interviews of people where we have people from both Israel and Palestine that are willing to compromise to end this war, this ridiculous war that should not have happened to begin with. But you still have extremists that are leading the place, the countries, or the states in this case, and they just cannot give in. They want supreme power. They want to eradicate people along the way of either getting to the Holy Land or protecting their Holy Land. So here you have this continuous conflict between Israel and Palestine. And what makes it worse is that although a lot of countries are supporting Palestinians, right, because they're basically being bombed, hundreds up to thousands of people are dying each year in Palestine. And also, this is not accounting for whatever has been lost in Israel yet so far. So now when you take it into all of these numbers, it's ridiculous to continue this war. The UN is supposed to step in to fix this, right? Because they started this shit, they should fix it. Except you have one country in there that has everything to gain from it, and that would be United States of America. Everything, all of the all of the funding that Israel gets come from America. They spend 3.8 billion each year of their taxpayers' money, providing funding, providing I think also arms, weapons to Israel to attack Palestinians, right? They're basically funding the entire operation to say, hey, take down Palestine. And here is, okay, there's so much hypocrisy here, right? Because when China was treating the Uyghurs badly, at least allegedly, right? They were harming, they were re-educating and killing Uyghurs. US came in, stepped in and said, hey, where is your human rights? Why are you doing this to your people? And on the other hand, they're basically funding Israel to say, hey, kill people, let's take back Palestinian, let's take back the Holy Land. So you can see the double standards that US have. And this, like whenever someone bullies you, right, it's only a matter of time before you fight back. You're not going to stay down, stay quiet the entire time, because that's just not really how you how you react to bullies. There is a explosion point, and once you hit that, people will start retaliating. So obviously, with the Palestinians being oppressed for so long, they finally took action and retaliated, right? And it's not just Palestinians. A lot of people around the world, as of now, they are having protests to go against Israel to protect the lives of Palestinians because people are dying there, okay? But it gets a bit extreme because at some point, someone's going to be like, hey, Israel is filled with Jews, right? Now all the Jews in the world are being hated. And this is what the term anti-Semitic is used for, where basically people are anti-Jews, right? But you must know, for your information to all my audiences out there, Jews are spread across the world. Not all the Jews feel the same way about Palestinians. Not all the Jews feel the same way, feel the same action should be taken against Muslims and Islamics, right? So the protests that have been ongoing in several countries are basically very anti-Semitic or anti-Jew in this case. And they're basically generalizing all of the Jews. They're sending so much hatred and discrimination. In the words of Chancellor Angela Merkel from Germany, says that she condemns all of the anti-Semitic protests. And mind you, these protests are happening in all of the synagogues in Germany. And if you're not familiar with what synagogues are, they're basically temples for Jews, people who follow Judaism. That's their temple, the place that they go to for religious purposes. So take it from a German, they know their shit when it comes to anti-Semitic issues. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Without going too deep into details on what has actually happened throughout the entire history of Israel and Palestine, the most important takeaway here is to know why they're fighting for it. What is the main purpose? What do they gain out of it? And really, should they be doing this, right? Because It's been so many years, people are dying in the name of religion, and it makes no sense when you claim peace, you claim to be a love thy neighbor saint, and you have zero of those values in real life. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today's podcast. I hope you learned a lot more, and if you're interested to find out more issues, real life issues, or even more about Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. You can find us on Hello Cannot Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. To everyone, please take care and stay safe.